Good afternoon, this is Steve with Born Again Torinos, and I just want to give you another update on how the Torino 43 is coming along, and it's doing well. I did a little bit of body work, and I thought I might show you some of the little tools that make things easier for me that I've learned through the years. You might already know this stuff, but I did get the floor painted, and it had a little bit of surface rust from the tar paper that was on top of it. So this has been painted with POR 15 after I made my drain holes, and then painted 2B, and then the inner quarters will be painted black. But I did a little bit of body work because I had holes here that the guy had drilled in to put the trim on, and so I thought, well, I'll do that body work. And then since I was already doing it, I went ahead and did all the trim holes, and I used the POR putty where you countersink the holes and then sand it, and then it's ready for your normal body work, but you didn't have to weld up 50 holes and risk warping metal, and it just works really well. I've used it for years, and now it's all ready for, it's countersunk, so it can't sink in or fall in. There's no big drippy Bondo pigtails on the backside because you just use a little, roll it up into a little ball, really, pea-sized, and then mushroom it out, and you have your water, and you do that. You have about an hour before it gets hard. So I did that, and I will show you. This is POR putty, and this is what it looks like. And it comes in 2 sticks, 2 bars, and you cut them equally. You knead it together with a little bowl of water, and then you just make these little balls and put them in their holes, and gives you a great foundation. And here's a little extra, and I hate having extra because this POR product is great, but it's really expensive, and you use it sparingly. But I did overdo it, so I had a little bit, and I thought, well, this is a great example. I'll let it dry and then show you how hard it is. It's like a marble. It sands well. It's rock hard. Great stuff. And this, because POR 15 is a plastic paint, and it comes in quarts and pints. You brush it on, or you can even spray it on. And this is what dripped after I did the floor of the trunk. It dripped onto the floor of my shop, and I just took a putty knife and scraped it up. And it's usually just glossy smooth, but it has all the dust and dirt from that was on the floor of my shop. But it doesn't sand well. It is plastic, but it seals really well, and it's tough. You can throw your tools on it. It doesn't chip or scratch. It's really good stuff. And again, super expensive, but so worth it. Just contact me if you want to know more about it. And this is the finishing putty I use, because normal filler, it has different grits and grains and qualities, and normal filler is expensive. You buy it, by the gallon, and it's pricey. This is even more expensive, but it's the last step. It's so fine, it's like creamy peanut butter. And when you just use your spreader and you put a little bit on, I mean a little bit, it just is glossy smooth, and it dries and it sands beautifully. It's super good stuff. And they have different brands of this stuff. This just happens to be the one that I use. And I don't use pneumatic tools. My compressor is not giant, and I want consistent power from my tools, and that's my compressor. It's not huge, and I don't want my tools slowing down. So I use an electric dual action sander, and it's a 5-inch hook and loop. And I've used this one for years and years, and it really does a great job. And you can take the dust bag off, and it's even smaller. Now they've come out with one, the DeWalt, that is electric or battery operated. And I might be getting one of those because I'm not a fan of cords, but love this. Really love it. I keep replacing these pads though, the foam pads that the hook and loop, the Velcro goes on, because they wear out. But that's what I use. And normal body tools. I think I've had these since I was a teenager. They don't wear out. It's just old-time body tools and hammers, and you might have saw a bunch of little black circles. That's because when I see a ding, a high spot or a low spot, I circle it because I don't know if I'll ever find it again. And I want to make sure I find as many as I possibly can, any type of imperfection that I need to work on. And it's nice that it's shiny because that helps me find them better. So I'll end up dusting it off and just going through it, looking for any high or low spots. And you can see on this one here, well, kind of, hope you can. I don't know if it comes through. So that is what I've been doing. So I did some welding because I had my small little rust hole here behind the back wheel, and so I cut it out with a margin, welded in my piece. But before I welded in my piece, I POR 15 the inner fender well. So it's coated in plastic, has a new drain hole in there too, and then my first coat of filler, and then you want to put it on so thin, just almost paper thin. And then I'm hoping I don't repeat myself, because I was recording this earlier and had a problem and I had to restart, so now I don't remember what I said. So if I repeat myself, forgive me. Go thin, and I alternate my hardener colors on my filler, because that way when you're sanding, and because you're going to do several coats, and you're going to sand off 75-80% of it easily, and do it again and do it again until it's perfect, and or as close to perfect as you can get. And when you do your other coats, if it's a different color, high and low spots come through because you use different color hardeners, and that's very helpful. When I spray on a guide coat, I'll do a layer like this, then I'll spray it with a dark gray primer, sandable primer, and then block sand it, and all the high and low spots will come through, because the low spots, the primer will stay, and then I know where I need to work. And just do that over and over again until you get it as best as you can. And you can kind of see how that POR putty worked, because this guy just went nuts drilling the trim onto the side, right through the trim. And this is it's typical though. But usually people don't drill through the trim. And when it's a vinyl top car, you've got a billion other holes all around to deal with. And then the opera window, if it had one of those, that's the biggest nightmare of all, welding that up and doing all that. So this has been a blessing. And they do, Ford did put a light glue on this this rubber, and it's all dried and hard. When I end up taking this out to paint, it comes out pretty easily, but all the dried whatever it is they used is stuck into this channel and stuck onto the rubber that I got to peel it all off. But it's just brittle and hard.